All right, our next game here, guys. The Cardinals that we mentioned earlier against the Vikings. The Vikings pull out a close one. Sam Darnold gets it done at the end of this game. The Vikings win 23-22 against a tough Arizona team. Darnold finishes 21-31 for 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 22 rushing yards. And on the other side of it, your ride or die, Matthew, 2 picks. He does run for 48 yards, but a little bit of more of the same with the Arizona offense, that every time you think they can get going, they kind of take 2 steps back.
4th straight game with 1 or fewer touchdown passes. He's been under 16 fantasy points in 3 of the past 4. It's weird. Every time you think Kyler's going to be like breaking through to that next level, which is what I expected, which is why I made him my ride or die. I mean, and I thought the Cardinals would be better than people thought they would, and they are. Like they're a good NFL team. Like this is a tough loss on the road to Minnesota, but like they're right there in it with one of the best teams in the NFC. But Kyler is just the inconsistency of Kyler. At least 260 passing yards in 4 of the past 5 games. That's been good. Season high in pass attempts. He's running more, as you mentioned, almost 50 yards rushing on the ground. All that's great. But again, just like they get the red zone woes, they struggle in the red zone. Now, this is a good defense. They were on the road at Minnesota. Vikings have a very good defense as well. I don't know why. It seems weird that, Marquez Valdes-Scantling can score, 5 touchdowns on 6 targets. And Trey McBride gets 8 billion targets and can't get into the end zone once.
Yeah.
None of this makes sense. But Trey McBride continues to be awesome.
Westbrook-Ikhine
12 Nick and NWI as well. At least Nick Westbrook-Ikhine will get him to. But at least he got targets this game.
Right.
Normally he's
right.
been 2
targets,
for 3,
touchdown.
2 targets for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. At least he got 7 targets against the Commanders. But MVS again, you see it there on your screen, 12 for 96 on 12 targets for Trey McBride. Has yet to have a touchdown, 92 targets on the season, no touchdowns. He's second among tight ends in receiving yards this season, 30 receptions. Even if he had 4, you're talking about one of the greatest tight end seasons of all time. But just, it's super weird they can't get into the end zone with Trey McBride. And so, Kyler Murray, he's my ride or die, so I can't admit failure until the end of the season. But it ain't looking great.
It's not looking great, but at the same time...
But he hasn't been awful either.
Well, no.
It's just he's playing really well. He's playing well at a football level. It's just not reflecting in the stats. His EPA yesterday was great. The thing with Kyler as well, yesterday in particular, and people never focus enough on this when they talk about quarterbacks and they evaluate quarterbacks. Kyler only took 1 sack yesterday. Yeah. That is hugely valuable for the way that he moves to only take 1 sack. Sam Darnold took 5 sacks for 30 yards, and no one will care because his stat line otherwise looked very good, and Darnold was good in the game as well. But with Kyler, it just doesn't seem like he's just not getting the volume. He doesn't seem to have the perfect connection with Marvin Harrison, though it was encouraging that he threw to him so much more yesterday. The other thing on this game is...
He had the 2 interceptions. I would argue one was his fault, one necessarily wasn't.
One was an arm punt on 3rd down, and then the other one is the game on the line, you got to chuck it up. Right. So I don't really pin that
but
much.
He was under pressure constantly. The offensive line has not played well for him.
They don't have a lot of talent.
Also, going to go for it at the end of the game. I understand that it's 4th and 4, 4th and 5, whatever. If you convert that play, you win the game, it's over. And if you miss it, then the Vikings have to drive the length of the field. And the thing there that is always hidden is that if you're only up 3, the other team plays more conservatively and they settle for the field goal more often. Right. Whereas if you do otherwise, that the Vikings, they have to go the full distance to score the touchdown, which they did.
Yeah, bad day at the office for Aaron Jones as well. Bails out with had the fumble, had the bad drop in the end zone, but ends up scoring the game winner. So tough day at the office for him as well. Didn't get the volume that you would hope for, but credit the Arizona defense. They dominated time possession in this game, and so it feels like sort of business as usual. There's nothing here that I'm suddenly Justin Jefferson back to being Justin Jefferson again. Addison mixes in there. Hawkinson didn't have a great game from Hawkinson, but 6 targets in this one. He's going to be fine. He's still a low-end tight end 1 as well. And Sam Darnold ultimately, winds up okay in this game. Over 100 yards passing in the 4th quarter. Really impressive game for Sammy. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.